Hi, katzcradul here. Happy Friday. It's time for Friday question and answers and odds and ends. And I have been sitting here preparing for this thing for over an hour, typing out questions and things that I wanted to tell you. So I hope I've got it all together here, and I've got some tabs set up for some visual aids that maybe will help a little bit. I'm going to try to make it go as smoothly and as quickly as I can. Let's just start with one of the first questions I got this week. In fact, it came on the tail of my last Friday's question and answer video, and it was from Maverick19821771. He says, very briefly, like the vids, but why do you do your write-up in third person? Well, I had to think about that, and here's how I responded. I said, I think it sounds more objective, and I hate saying I this and I that. And I guess the other reason really is to write it like someone would write a quick synopsis for, let's say, a movie. I also try to take any passion or sentiment out of that synopsis and just state the facts of what the video is about. It's been a good exercise for me in evaluating whether I reach my objective and purpose, of the video. If I think the synopsis sounds good, then the video probably is too. And that's the response I gave. And then after I got to thinking about it, on my first video that I ever posted, I wasn't sure how to write write the caption under the video or how it should sound. So I asked my husband to write it for me, and of course he wrote it in third person. And I'm sure I was just using that pattern as I wrote the next one. So I've tried another approach this week, in case that's bugging y'all, to where I'm just writing it, not in third person though. And I haven't had any comments either way on that. So I would think that what matters most to people, I would hope, is the information in the video and not how I write the caption underneath. But if it bugs you, I'm sorry, and I'll try it a different way for a while if it matters. Okay, let's go to some preserving food questions. From Hooves and Paws 61, I got this one. I have a ton of slicing cukes, but my canning cukes didn't grow this year. Do you think these will work in a recipe? And the answer is yes, they will work. The real difference is from table cucumbers to pickling cucumbers is generally the table cucumbers get a little bit bigger and the seeds get a little bit bigger. If you want to make pickles, you do want a pickling cucumber if you can, because in general the seeds are smaller and the center stays more firm and doesn't get soft when it's pickled. But there are ways around that. If you're watching my dill pickle video, you can soak them in ice water and do the other things I suggested, and it really will help. So yeah, go ahead and can those table cucumbers. I, in fact, for years only used those to make sweet pickles, and they were delicious. I never had a problem with them. And if you cut open a table cucumber and it has really huge seeds in it, just scrape those seeds out and then go ahead and slice them up for, or can them just like that. Just take the seeds right out, and that gets around that problem. Don't forget to cut off that blossom end, though, so that enzyme doesn't continue to deteriorate your pickle. Ziva for Freedom says, it's going to be my first time to pickle, and Vlasic kosher deals are my all-time favorite. Should I use the pickle spices bought in the store or fresh deal, or does it make a difference? She said, I've also heard to use 50% water, 50% vinegar. Is that what you would use? I don't have a water bath canner. Can I use anything for water bathing? Alrighty. Several questions there. She likes those Vlasic kosher deals. If those are the ones you love, I would recommend you make refrigerator pickles. Find a recipe for refrigerator pickles. They're absolutely the crispest ones because they have very little heat applied to them. Should she use pickle spices or fresh dill? Yes, both. Use the pickling spices and use fresh dill. It makes them delicious. 50% water, 50% vinegar, that works okay. I'm a little partial to a little more vinegar than water, but that certainly works. Just follow a good standardized recipe and you should have good luck. Here's from Michelle 47635. She says, I'm new to canning and preserving food. Oh, whoops. I missed one question on Ziva for Freedom. She said, can I use anything for water bath canning? And the answer to that is yes, as long as it's deep enough. You've got to put your jars in the pot and still be able to have 2 inches of boiling water over the jars. So yes, any big pot will do. Those big water bath canners that are specifically for that are nice because they're so huge. But if you're not doing too much and you've got a big pot, sure, it'll work just great. It really helps to get your jars off the bottom of that pot, though, so if you don't have a rack to go in the bottom, go ahead and put rings that go on your canning jars in the bottom of that pot so that those canning jars are not sitting directly on the bottom, because if they get too hot, sometimes they will crack. Okay, now on to Michelle 47635's question. She said she's new to preserving. She bought a pressure canner a couple of weeks ago. She made canned chicken broth because that's what she had on hand. She said she's very nervous. She's seen a few videos where people can both pint and quart jars at the same time. Is that okay to do? She says she likes that idea. Sure, that's fine. But the rule of thumb is that you follow the directions for that container that has to cook the longest, and that's generally the quart. So if it says you have to process a quart for 90 minutes and a pint for 75 minutes and you're doing a mixed batch, you have to do it for 90 minutes, okay? Now, I don't really recommend doing that because to me, if I'm using the pressure canner, and I hate to say this because it may ruffle some feathers, I don't know. If you're using a pressure canner, to me, it always cooks the food more than I would cook it if I were cooking it fresh. If I'm canning chicken in the pressure canner, 90 minutes in a pressure canner for a piece of deboned chicken is a long time. If I were cooking chicken for my supper tonight and I was going to use the pressure canner, I might pressure cook my chicken 15 minutes. So if you're doing pints and quarts at the same time, just recognize that that pint is going to be processed a long time for a pint. So if you have a differing opinion about that, just leave it in the comment section. I'll be starting a new video series this week on sweet pickles. It's kind of a lengthy process, takes about 9 days, so I should have that up in about a week and a half, but I promise you, it is the best sweet pickle recipe you have ever tasted, and I'll get that up. One more food preservation question, and it was on my strawberry rhubarb jam video. RoboWis, R-O-B-O-W-I-S 1 says, how long does that strawberry rhubarb jam keep? And I told him I didn't really know, because if my family knows it's in the refrigerator, it gets eaten up right away. All kidding aside, it'll keep a long time in the refrigerator, several months, and yes, you can freeze it. And welcome, RoboWis1. Glad to have you as a subscriber. Fair Lady 2JZ asked about dealing with summer heat. She said she doesn't know what the heat's like in Missouri, but it's terrible on the Gulf Coast. Have I thought about what I'm going to do if there's no AC? Well, my husband lured me to Missouri on false pretenses. He lived here, and he said it was so much cooler in Missouri than it was in Texas, and I was just going to love it. Well, that's a big fat lie. It is really hot in Missouri. Not as hot as long as it is in Texas, but it's hot. And yes, I've thought about that long and hard because I'm not one who likes to be hot. In fact, I'll probably just go ahead and do a video on that. We're fortunate enough to have been able to buy a solar generator. That's one that gets its power from the sun, of course, and it charges battery cells, and then you're able to use that generator, and it makes absolutely no noise. So that's wonderful. I plan to at least be able to have a fan to run during the night. I also am hoping that maybe if things don't get too bad, I could purchase a window unit and even run that during the night. The other thing I have thought about, we do have spray bottles for water. In fact, we have several of those. So I'm thinking if I can mist myself down and maybe turn a fan on me, I can stay cool. The other thing I have thought of, and I bought them today. I wish I'd have put them out for you. I bought a mask for sleeping that you put over your eyes to make the room dark when you're trying to sleep during daylight. And I bought some earplugs because if it is so hot that I can't sleep at night, but you know, I don't want to run an air conditioner and make noise at night where I couldn't hear what's going on outside, we may have to sleep in shifts in this house, and I may have to doze and sleep during the day, sleeping in a room with a window unit that's being run by the solar generator with earplugs on, a little mask on my face to sleep during the day for a few hours, and then be awake at night doing whatever I need to do by candlelight or lamplight or whatever, and actually working during the cooler hours and maybe sleeping during the day when it doesn't matter if there's a little noise, because other people are going to be up and working, and my husband would be up working around, and I could catch a few winks when it's cooler. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if I explained my plan there very well, but you better give it some thought. How are you going to sleep when it gets really hot at night if you're not used to that? All right, I got a video question from MAJKRR1. Great question. I love that. He's planted some heirloom tomatoes that have beautiful foliage. They're covered with blossoms. No tomatoes. And I will tell you what I said to him about that. His concern is, why aren't they putting on tomatoes? My response to him was, I'm not showing you his face because I didn't get permission to, was I said, don't add any more fertilizer until the fruit sets. It might be getting too much nitrogen. That's what you can, if you're fertilizing and you're getting all greenery, no vegetables, probably too much nitrogen. Let's see, that would account for the lush greenery and not much fruit. The other recommendation, and this may seem drastic, but I'd go ahead and try this with one plant, and I told him to cut off all the vegetation below the level of the lowest blossom. I do this to my tomatoes lots of times. Lots of times those lower limbs will get kind of raggedy and brown anyway, and I just cut those off and let all of the energy go into making fruit, and it works just great. The other thing I said was there might be a problem with pollination, for him to go and look and see if insects are buzzing around those plants. If not, he may need to pollinate by hand. And then I passed a referral on to MHP Gardner and had him take a look at the video, and he said several things. He says that a lot of people are having problems, that things are fruiting later this year, that he might want to hand pollinate, and you can even shake the plant and sometimes the pollen will fall to the lower levels. Let's see what else he said here. Oh, he said one of the real problems is that it could be a temperature issue. If he planted later, tomatoes really like to set when the nights are a little bit cooler, and I'll read this exactly. You can get a fruit set at high temps, but it may take some work. You ever wonder why tomato production slows in the summer then picks back up in the fall? Temperature. He says, I have a few left in my greenhouse that are still setting fruit with temps at 100 and 115 every day. It can be done. So my recommendation is just be patient. That fruit's probably going to set. You may have to help it a little bit with hand pollination, but I think he's going to get fruit. All right. Somebody asked me a question about eating the male blossoms on the zucchini, and I just want to show, for those of you who are new, this is a male blossom on a zucchini. It has a stem and then a blossom. The female, and of course when it starts out, it just has a little bitty bit of a zucchini there, and then the blossom here. They're both edible, and if you're getting more zucchini than you can handle, go ahead and eat some of the blossoms. This one, the male blossom, will fall off, and actually it'll fall off here. The stem will be left on the plant and the blossom will be laying on the ground. A lot of first-time gardeners are really shocked and think, oh, what's wrong with my zucchini plant? All the blossoms are on the ground. Well, no, it's just the male blossoms laying on the ground, and that's what it's supposed to do. So if you're getting more zucchini than you can stand, go ahead and cook these blossoms. You can dip them in batter and fry them like a fritter. They're delicious. You'll want to remove the pistil and stamen from them because they're a little bit bitter, but they are absolutely delicious to eat, and they are delicious in a stir fry. I'm going to show you one more picture here. This is how it looks on the plant before the blossoms actually opened up very well. Let me get this a little bit better for you. Here we go. Here's the female, the fruit, and the blossom. Here's the male, just the stem and the blossom. Okay, I hope that clears that up. We are rooting some suckers that you can look right here and see the beautiful roots down there. Some of them have rooted, some of them not, because we put them in at different times. But I'm just about ready to put those in some soilless mix and grow them up a little bit bigger to plant those for my fall garden. These are just suckers off my tomato plants that we just cut off, and I recommend that you cut them at an angle and cut them underwater, just like you do when you're trying to preserve roses. Cut them at an angle and underwater so that as you cut, that stem is going to be, it's going to be gasping, and the first thing it draws up is going to be water. So these have only been rooting for about a week and a half. I put them in this cute little jar. They've actually been sitting in my living room. Yes, gardening things are everywhere in my house, and they're just beautiful. And they go ahead and root in a sunny spot, and then you've got a whole new plant that you've paid nothing for. I want to tell you a little bit about a lady, and I can't find out where I saw this, but it's fascinating. She dried some tomatoes off, delicious tomatoes off a plant that she got, and she just loved it. And she went back the next year to buy the same tomatoes plants, and she couldn't find them. They didn't have them. And she was so upset because she had looked forward all year to planting those tomatoes that were so delicious, and she didn't know what to do. And she got the bright idea to go home, and she took one of the dried tomato slices that she had in a jar, and she took that tomato slice out and she planted it. And she didn't think anything really would happen because she had dehydrated it. She just thought nothing would happen. And it wasn't but about a week and a half later that they're in the same spot where she planted that dehydrated tomato slice, there were 25 little tomato plants, and she was ecstatic. And so from a dehydrated slice of tomato, she got 25 tomato plants. That was a real lesson to me and a real eye-opener. So I dehydrate some of my favorite tomatoes and save them in slices instead of trying to separate out the seed and do all the fancy stuff we do when we wash those seeds and preserve them, knowing that in all likelihood I can probably do the same thing. Plant a tomato slice, get 25 plants, separate them out, and then go put them in my garden. I just think that's the coolest idea ever. One of my subscribers sent me this picture. Let me find it here. She took my box idea. This isn't a great photo, but I hope you can see it. She went a step further. She took, see here, this A&W root beer box, and then she's got another one over here. She took the top completely off the box. She reinforced the front with duct tape, so there's no top on that box. She actually cut the top in half and folded the top down and taped it inside to where these boxes are open at the top. And then she just laid her cans in, and you can see she's got a shelf down here and a shelf up here. So she just stacked the cans all in that can sorter and says she is thrilled to death. She has a tiny pantry, but let me see how many. There's 9 in the bottom, and then there's one in every 9, 10. I think 15 high per box is what she can get. Awesome use of space, and she's thrilled to death. She says she can't drink her sodas fast enough in order to get the boxes. All right, I had another viewer who wrote me and said she was concerned about my video on using the Fresnel lens. She gave a word of warning, and I promised her I would pass it on because she was so concerned. She says, quote, "One word of warning. My mother kept a magnifier mirror on her sofa in the sun, and yep, you guessed it. She burned a huge hole in the sofa in just over a minute. The sun came in the window, and if they had gone to the store, the house would have burned to the ground. Be careful with any form of magnifier. My father just happened to go to the sunroom before going to the store, and it was on fire. A big fire. He used a home fire extinguisher to put it out." Thank you, Sheila6325, for that word of caution. Everybody take heed. Be careful where you put those magnifiers so that they are not in the sun and not unattended. I want to draw your attention to 2 videos I uploaded this week, or that I favorited. One is on an Israeli bandage. I was so impressed with that video that I ordered 5 for my first aid kit. Please go watch that Israeli bandage. I talked to a medical professional this week. He does bone surgery, and he said, you know, we were trained a long time ago when we were kids in Scouts that a tourniquet was a bad thing. He said, we use it in surgery all the time. If you want to stop bleeding, you need one. Well, the Israeli bandage can also function as a tourniquet, and you need to go watch that video. It is impressive. They're only about $4 or $5 a piece, I think, and I have 5 of them. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is TEDx Austin. This is Robin O'Brien giving a lecture on how it is each of our responsibility to monitor what is going on with our food, and it's really a motivational speech on getting us each to get involved and to stand up for what we know what is right for the food. Our government has not done the right thing in taking care of our food source. They continue to make decisions that are not helpful. In fact, they are very harmful for us, and I think you'll find it an intriguing lecture. It's not very long. So those two things I draw your attention to. I hope questions and answers and odds and ends has been helpful for you today. I'll continue to save your questions, those ones that need a bit of discussion, until Friday. It's been fun putting this together, I hope it hasn't been too long, and that it's been worth watching. I appreciate you all as my subscribers. You're awesome. Your kind words and kind sentiments just motivate me and excite me. I'm here to pass on information. That's all I care about. I'm impressed and I am humbled by the amount of subscribers I have, and those of you who are passing my channel on to others to watch. I'm thrilled with that, because I know people are getting information that they're longing for. I know it's information you want because you tell me so. I just want you to know I appreciate you watching and commenting and being so supportive. It makes it a delight for me to do this. So everybody have a great weekend. I'll be back with you next Friday for questions and answers and odds and ends. And in between, I'll be posting what I hope some good stuff for you. Take care, everybody. Cat's Cradle.